Do you feel going MMO is the natural progression of the ARPG genre?
I did at the time, and I've done some stuff in that direction, but it turns out that it's actually extremely difficult to do. I don't know if that's necessarily the answer anymore. I can imagine a way that it could be done, and I have a lot of experience now, because when we left Blizzard North and left Blizzard, we went and made Flagship Studios, and we were working on two products. One, Hellgate London, got released, and then we were working on another product called Mythos. And Mythos was an action RPG, and it was being done kind of at the Flagship Northern branch up in Seattle by Travis Baldry and the guy who made Fate, and then since went on and made Torchlight and Torchlight 2 with Max and Eric, and now is working with Eric doing Double Damage games, and did Rebel Galaxy in the fall. So they were making Mythos up there, and they were it was an MMO light basically, and so it was kind of massively instanced MMO. And then I kind of learned from that experience what to do and how to do it. So we were our first attempt was at Blizzard North, and then the second attempt was that never saw the light of day, was at Flagship. And then I went and I did Marvel Heroes, and Marvel Heroes was more, taking some of the lessons I had learned from those other things to make Marvel Heroes, but it still wasn't exactly the way I wanted it to be. And so if I was going to do an MMO action RPG, I think that there are some steps, having taken the other steps, that I would do differently to create a different type of action RPG MMO. I still think that it is possible. One of the best parts of Marvel Heroes was the ability for you to play with a bunch of your friends and do raiding and things like that. And so having 10 people taking on big bosses and stuff was really an exciting and fun thing to do in that game. And so in some ways, I think MMO is definitely the way to go, especially socially. But there are some drawbacks in the way that an MMO works versus the way that an action RPG works. They're kind of in conflict. A lot of times it's difficult to populate the levels correctly and things like that. You lose a little bit of your sense of progression as you would clear out parts of a level. It feels like I've cleared this level. I'm making progress. That's kind of gone. There's all these things that were kind of staples of Diablo 2 that don't really apply to an MMO, and losing some of those feelings changes what the game is.
So if you had, say, infinite budget and you can resolve any issues, and you had the desire to, would you desire to make a more classic ARPG or an MMO ARPG?
That's a tough question. See, the thing is that a real action RPG MMO would take a very long time to create, and I would be worried that it's not going to be worth the price that you pay of actually making an MMO. I think that, in today's kind of world, MMOs really aren't as popular as they were even 10 years ago. And there's really only one kind of popular one now. And so, I think that whole genre needs, an MMORPGs need some breath of fresh air, and I don't know what it is, but maybe it's action RPG, maybe not, but but I think that it feels a little stagnant, a little cookie cutter at this point, and so where that goes, I don't know. In action RPG, I also feel like they're really, I would like to see more innovation and some things that change from the way they have been traditionally. I think that is, you have different directions you can go. You can go MMO, but you could also go in a different direction, which is playing more to kind of the way that people consume games and products today versus, before. They have, I think that a lot of people are into things like speed running and like in playing something in a shorter session and like those kind of things definitely, you know, being on Twitch and having something that can capture an audience for a particular session and those kind of stuff seems much more popular than you know, session-based stuff, even like League of Legends and things like that. Those short session, I can sit down and have entertainment for a half an hour or an hour is critical. And I think that once you go into MMO direction, you're talking about maybe hours for something to really make sense, and that length of time is in conflict, I think, with action RPGs in some way. But also, I think that really to speak to the action RPG audience, you should be focused on doing more short session-y kind of things, where you could play for as much as you want, but you know, you're in a chunk, a bite-sized piece where I feel like I can make some progress and feel like I did something in a half an hour to an hour.
I think that was a major guiding decision in Diablo 3's Paragon system, where they wanted that even if you just play for a short time, you at least, say, gain 1 Paragon level. How familiar are you with...
Yeah, I'm very familiar with it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, yeah, no, I think that is. It feels like you're set out a goal or whatever. I mean, I think that that's admirable, but I would rather make there be lots of goals that you can accomplish. Which one of these 27 things am I going to do in the next half hour? Not, I've got one thing to do for the next half hour.
You may have already answered this in a way, but if you have any further thoughts, what do you think about the future of the ARPG genre?
Well, like I said, I think that in general, I think that there needs to be some kind of fresh perspectives, fresh life, fresh something into it. It's become a little stagnant, a little stale. I don't know exactly what the answer is. If I did, I'd probably be working on that. You know, I think that that people would like to have some progression in the action RPGs, and you know, in the terms of new features and new ways to design and things like that. But I think that it's going to take a different kind of game to really kind of push the ARPG in a different direction. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is, but it definitely needs. It's got to get away from kind of they've explored almost every avenue of skills and what you can do from this perspective and things like that. So I don't know where you can go from here, right? But it feels a little bit stagnant at this point. There aren't any big, massive ideas that have come out that have changed the way that people are playing action RPGs. And so I think it really will take something like that and somebody will come up with it. It's going to happen. Just, you know, I think that first-person shooters for a while there were kind of like everyone was exactly the same, and now you know, there's plenty of very original, unique, different styles of first-person shooters and very different kinds of gameplay, but still people consider them to be first-person shooters. I think the same thing can be said with action RPG, and somebody will do something.
So you haven't heard of Lineage Eternal or Lost Ark, perchance?
Yeah, no, I've heard of both of those, and you know, I think that they are both have potential, but people get very excited by graphics, and people get easily swept up in imagining all that it could be. And I think the reality of what some of those games are like versus the actual moment-to-moment gameplay and depth and things like that really actually matter are very different. I mean, I think it's really exciting to like come around a bend and like there's all these guys like crawling up the walls and like a horde of guys coming down the ramp, and oh my god, look at this thing, oh it's a giant battle, I'm in the giant battle, and then it's never really quite like you imagined it would be. Instead, it's like it's kind of funneled and it's more of a cinematic, and it's like, and so people are like, oh my god, look at this, oh my god, there's so many enemies, and oh my god, and then you look at, it's kind of like that, but it turns out that that it was a cinematic, and the guy behind, in the party ended up casting a spell, the NPC, and he killed everything, and it really wasn't all that exciting, So it's like, so having these cinematic moments, I think, really that they do very, very well, and they are very awesome looking, don't get me wrong, is very different than the moment-to-moment gameplay of these games and exactly what they're like.
what mechanics or elements of Diablo 1 and 2 do you think will disappear in upcoming ARPG games? Like, what do you think is disappearing from the ARPG genre?
Well, I think that Diablo 1, a lot of the stuff out of Diablo 1 disappeared. And we did it on purpose, actually, for Diablo 2. And one of the things that I still find fascinating with Diablo 1, which really isn't done very often, I can't even think of another action RPG off the top of my head that did it, which is that everybody can do everything. Like, you can go and you can pick up an item. Let's say you're a wizard and you go and you pick up a sword. You can use that sword. You just suck at it. Like, your animation is much slower, and you're like, the chance of you doing damage is reduced and things like that. So, like, you can put on armor, but then you are not as good of a spellcaster and stuff like that. That concept really isn't carried out in any action RPG today that I can think of, where anybody can do anything. Oftentimes, it's very class restrictive. And so I think that, and we did that in Diablo 1. I love that aspect of it. But we found that people didn't know how to make decisions and made bad decisions, and so they would like, why does this feel so bad to cast these spells? Because you're wearing plate armor, it was so. I think that we did it on purpose to kind of enhance the play and the feel of the game or whatever, to kind of, I wouldn't say shoehorn, but at least guide people in the correct decision making versus the way that we did it in Diablo 1, which is like, do whatever the hell you want. And so people like learn all sorts of weird spell combos and things like that, and so they would end up with bad characters, and they had a difficult time winning the game because they were making a lot of bad choices, and not intentionally. They just didn't know any better, right? It wasn't very clear that these were going to be bad choices. And so I kind of missed that from Diablo 1. I like the idea that anybody can do anything, and you don't really see that today.